Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Velvet Lounge. Today I am going to talk about live auctions. That is where you are at the auction house in person or on the property and you are bidding on items that are up for sale or up for auction. So this will be a 2 or 3 part series. Because there's really a lot to cover. And what I'm going to be covering is how you can win these auctions and come out on top as far as profitability. So most of the time when people go to auctions, they are overspending. It is amazing how they're willing, most of them are overspending just because they want to win the auction, and it gets into a competition. You have to remember your purse, your wallet, your bank account, your checkbook. It's not a competition. So if you want to spend the least amount of money, if you really want to know how to win at these auctions at the right time for the right merchandise, you need to watch these 2 or 3 videos that will be in this series. So, part 2 of my introduction is that, and just to make sure that everything's out in the open, we owned an auction house for several years, and we owned an auction house where people came, sat in a chair, they, bid on items, and they took them away. Eventually what happened is we had we had very few people coming to our auctions because they would call in their bids or they would leave their bids. And so there was no need for us to have an auction house anymore because, other than for storage, we really didn't have the big audiences that we had initially or for a while. So that's one of the things that I'm finding with auction houses is a lot of them are going to online auctions only. So they no longer have the sticks and brick and mortar locations, which is actually not a bad thing. The reason it's not bad is because now there's, these people don't have to pay rent or leases. They don't have to pay for some of the liability insurances and, other expenses that go into literally running an auction house. The staff, you don't need as much. So it's a huge money saver for the auctioneers who own these auction houses like we did. So yay. And also, my God, we have so much more time, so much more free time to live. So you might see that, there are not as many auction houses in your area when you go to search for them. That's why. But for those of you that still have auction houses in your areas, or even if they're not in your area, look one state over to the left and right, up or down, north or south of you. And if it's, a quick ride to the border, it might be worth the trip. So, first of all, to start today's series off, we're going to talk about how this process works and what you should do before you ever start bidding on an item. So first of all, what happens is auctioneers, we would, get items, as I still do, from, individuals, from businesses. If a hotel is going out of business, they might contact us because they want us to take all their artwork, chairs, whatever it is. It could be anything. Sometimes we contract with companies or organizations. And I told you guys about our relationship with the Salvation Army. So there's, and as well as, old Grandpa Joe, your neighbors Betty and Bob are moving and now they want to get rid of everything, or you have that collector that has, 5,000 pocket watches, and they're ready to turn that over because they now want to travel the world or just use their money for whatever they want. There's all sorts of ways that things come into an auction house. So what happens after that occurs is the auctioneer should be recording the items that they took in so that the person who brought them in leaves with an itemized inventory list that's been signed off by the auctioneer, as well as by the person that's selling the items, that's simply saying, yes, these are the items we're turning over to you to sell. And the auctioneer is saying, yes, I agree that I accepted these items and will obey whatever laws and regulations are in this state to auction off your items. Now, something you need to know that a lot of people don't know is auctioneers in most states in the United States do not have to be licensed in any way to be an auctioneer. If you lived in my state right now, you could be an auctioneer. An 8-year-old cannot enter into a contract because you have to be 18 years or older in the United States. So that's the only stipulation, is that you're 18 years or older and can legally enter into a contract. So if you're that, then you could be an auctioneer. So what you want to do is look for, and I'm not going to say just look for auction houses where, the person has been in business for 50 years, it's been in their family for 45 years. That might actually be an unscrupulous auctioneer or auction house. You don't know how they've been flying all these years. Someone who's brand new to the business, fresh set of eyes, might be a good idea. But what I will say is you definitely, whether the person has been in business for decades or just walked into the business door 3 months ago, is you want to definitely look this person up, look them up under their name, their business name, of course, but as well as their personal given name that's registered, so that you can see if they have any current or prior complaints against them for any reason whatsoever. You can also look up their voting records. You can look up whether they have a criminal record. You could do a lot of research, especially before handing your items over to someone to auction them off, because lots of valuables get handed back and forth in the auction business. And we have personally dealt with an auctioneer who was not an honest person, and we had no idea until a few people asked us why we were dealing with that individual, and we were like, hey, they seem nice, we seem to have gotten friendly, and we thought it was a good idea. We didn't give them a lot. We gave them a few items because we wanted to test the process. And we were not taken for a ride, thankfully, by that person. I think they were trying to get us in the door. So I don't know if anything would have happened with our items like in the future. And this is before we owned an auction house ourselves, but we do know of several people who had major issues legally. So if they had looked that individual up on the Better Business Bureau by their given name, and that means like their, if they were Bob Smith, like their name, they would have found a myriad of issues, like going back several years up to the present day. Under their business name, there were a few complaints, but not as many and nowhere near as severe as what was under their own personal name. So you always want to do your research before dealing with an auction house, especially if you're giving them things to sell. So that's, number one. If you're selling, do your research. If you're buying, you just want to make sure that you, first of all, preview the items. That means that 1 or 2 days before the auction occurs, there should be an open preview, which usually lasts like 5 to 8 hours where you could go in, you could touch the item, you can look things up on your phone to get an idea of cost, value. You know, is this an item that's actually, you know, are there 5 trillion of this item, or is this something that's more unique? Like, you could do all that research yourself, as well as, you know, go in and get an understanding of what the auction house rules are. Every single auction house has rules, and all of them vary just a little bit, if not a lot. So it depends, as well as what the extra fees are. So if you win an auction, and let's say the item was $20, you won the bid at 20. On top of that 20, you will have other fees that you need to pay. So those other fees are, first of all, so that the auction house could be in business, they not only have to charge you a fee, they also charge the seller a fee, as well as any taxes have to be collected as well. So when you go to the cashier to pay, you need to also pay your taxes on that item. There are no exceptions. Whatever the fees are, they are. You can't negotiate anything. If you won at $20, you need to pay your $20 plus whatever percentage the auction house is charging you just because you bought the item, and whatever the taxes are. So there's no exceptions to that. So that's basically how it works. And at the end of the auction, they have recorders. So there's someone who's recording all the bids and this and that and who won, whatever. When you register, you'll receive, I should have brought one in here with me. Actually, I'm going to pause this. So here I am, I'm back, and guess what I have? I have my bidder number. So my bidder number is 296. And if you can tell, underneath that number, there's a lot of verbiage. These are some of the auction house rules. So just to show you, there's a lot of rules, and these are standard. So there could be additional ones that are exclusive to that auction house. So like I said, you want to understand, this is based, and it actually says bidder contract and terms. So you're actually, like, when you register, you're basically signing a contract. So understand what you're doing. And so when you bid, this is the number that you would use. You'd hold it so that the auctioneer can see it. You can hold it up high, or you can hold it right here at your chest if you're close enough, so everyone can't see your bidding, because sometimes people just want to bid against you, and sometimes it's to kick up the price because they want to stick it to you. So like I said, you want to be aware of that. The other thing is, every item in the auction house will have a sticker similar to this yellow one. I don't know how well you can see that, actually, if I put it here. And this is a lot number. So the sticker might be white, it might be yellow, it could be neon green, but most of them are this exact sticker. Most of us use this. And so it just lets you know, like, when you're making your notes about things you want to bid on before the bidding starts, you should be doing that during the preview. You will write down the lot number. You should write down what was in that lot. So if there's 23 pieces of Derby china in the box, you should write that down, because you might forget that there were 23 pieces in there. And I would actually write down 8 cups, 3 saucers, 14 dinner plates, like whatever that is. And I would write down that it was Derby and it was the clover pattern or whatever it was, so that things aren't switched up when you go to claim these items after paying for them. Because after you pay for them, after you receive them, you look at them, make sure everything is right, nothing's broken, everything's there. After you pay for it, you own it. So the likelihood of you getting a refund, it's not like going to Target or Walmart. There, 99% of the time, there is no refund for anything, because it's up to you to preview the item. And if you read the 499 rules in your bidder contract and terms, as well as whatever rules are exclusive to the house that you're bidding in, then you'll probably see that they say something about having like no refunds. So, you know, this is what you're signing up for. You're signing up to get this number and to get all the rules. And then what happens after you win an item is the bidder number gets filled in. So if you're bidder number 692, like I am, then someone will simply write your number on that sticker. It'll be stored somewhere safe, so that other people can't walk off with your stuff until after you pay. And then that's how they basically track it. There is a recorder, which is a person who is sitting there writing down all of the bids, all of the lot numbers, all of the winning bidder numbers, so they know, who belongs to what at the end of the auction. I'm sorry about the lighting in here. It just seems extra bright, which is really weird because usually it's not that great, but it is what it is. And yes, once again, I'm in my skivvies, almost ready to go hit the sack because we have a big project tomorrow that I hope is lucrative. Looking forward to it. But anyway, so that's basically how you begin the entire process, how the goods get to the house, how they obtain them. I don't know if I said this, but something that you also want to do when you go to an auction is bring what I call an auction bag, which is just in your backpack. Make sure you have a bottle of water, a snack, as well as hand sanitizer. Gloves might be necessary, just, those disposable gloves, pen, paper, so that you can write down like what you're bidding on and all that. And of course, most auction houses will take debit. Some might not take a debit card, but everyone I've dealt with, they have taken debit, credit, cash. They do not accept checks or promises to pay later or tomorrow. When you win the auction that day or night, you have to pay that day or night. So pretty much that's it. So what I'm going to now concentrate on in this video, and I definitely can have a second one, maybe a third, is really how you can get the best deals. Because if you go to Christie's auction house, for example, which we actually do business with them on occasion, you are not going to get a good deal. I mean, you're not. That's a worldwide organization that has international bidders who are willing to pay any amount of money to win that thing, whatever that thing is that they want. The chances of you winning it are, unless you have very deep pockets and a lot of disposable income, you will not win the bid. I'm just saying that. If you're watching this video, you're probably not going to win the bid against another bidder in a Christie's auction house or Schwann's auction house, or I think there's like one other big one, but those are the two. We have one we deal with out of Boston, which we've dealt with like 2 or 3 times. And of course, Christie's is in New York, the one that we deal with anyway. We've dealt with them several times. So, yeah, we had some good hits over the years. But most of the people out there really should be looking at the mom and pop auction houses. That's where the resale cash is. So if you want to make good money and find amazing items, you really hopefully are going to hit the subscribe button right now, and also give us a thumbs up. Just take a moment to hit the thumbs up. It's literally a millisecond. I'll actually wait. Yep, you just did it. We're good. Because there are so many great deals. I know a guy who actually makes a living going to auction houses and buying the stuff that no one pays attention to. So these are some of the things that I'm going to be teaching you over these one or two videos. So one of them is, do not buy anything that is in the auction catalog. Nothing. Let other people buy that stuff. The auctioneer has literally put time, maybe even paid some money to advertise those items. But they definitely put in time to create the catalog, and a lot of the catalogs are online catalogs now, so there is no paper catalog like back in the day. Some, like Christie's, still has a paper catalog, and guess what? You have to pay for it. So that tells you right there how much money Christie's has and how they can afford to do things a certain way because of the clientele that they attract. So going to a mom and pop shop of an auction house is the best idea ever. And because I'm going to say like no frills, a lot of the extras that you would get from a big auction house or a very expensive auction house, a frou-frou auction house like Christie's, you don't need to worry about at the mom and pop shop. So what happens is that mom and pop shop is concentrating on probably their best 100 lots. Those are the ones that you'll see pictures in the catalog online, and those are the ones that everybody else has seen that's coming to the auction as well. What you need to do is go to the preview and start looking where other people are, and I'm going to say it, too damn lazy to look. That's why you will end up getting great items for very, literally pennies on the dollar at these auctions. So even though they have to charge you, a buyer's premium and the tax, of course, you always want to take that into account. But if you're only paying $5 for a box lot that has like 30 items in it, or if you're paying, $20 for a box lot that has 5 items in it, but they're amazing items that you can turn over for big cash, it's totally worth it. I will say there are some raggedy auctions out there where the people are actually reselling stuff online and taking their garbage stuff and bringing it and trying to create their own mini auction, if you will. And that's not the stuff I'm talking about. I'm talking about look for an established auction house or one that's new, but when you go into it, you can tell that they have so much stuff. There's no way that they went through doing research on every single item in that organization. They just don't have the time, especially if they're doing auctions every week. And that's another one of my tips for you, is look for auction houses that do auctions every week. I would say every 2 weeks max, but every week is best because they don't have the time to research every single item. They're only paying attention to what they know are the big money items, or they know is the oddity. Like we've auctioned off, we had vehicles. We didn't auction off a lot of vehicles, and we auctioned off 2 vehicles, totally different times, owned by different people. And I had so many, of course, like we're, showcasing that as, look, we're auctioning off a vehicle. Yes, come and see us. And with that, of course, we auctioned off other big items. And what we did is, because we were auctioning off a vehicle, we put some of our more expensive jewelry into that auction and some other more expensive collectibles. And we had like a bunch of Hitchcock furniture and stuff like that, that we knew that people who were coming to, who could see that we were selling a car, one, either they were interested in the car solely, or they were like, wow, look at this auction house. They actually auctioned off vehicles. what else do they have? And we got a lot of that. And we had people who would call in from different countries as well as different states. Of course, we always had the different states in the United States. And it was great. And my God, what an amazing auction. And we've had so many that were like that. So the thing is, people were looking at the flashy items because those are what we concentrated on putting in our advertising and putting in our auction catalog. But in the background, for people who actually came to the auction house to see what else we had, you know, those are people that made out better as far as resale value anyway, than the people who just saw the big flashy items. So when you go to these auction houses, you want to look under the tables. You want to look in the corners. You want to look on the upper shelves where no one wants to stretch and go to. And I hate to say this, but sometimes it's an age thing. Like some people have difficulty bending and stretching. But, you know, and then that's another thing that you can do is bring one of those little collapsible, stools. It's like a step, and that will help you see, you know, up on an upper rack, as well as there should always be staff on hand so that if you do need assistance with something, they can bring it down. The only bad thing negative about that is now you just brought attention to an item that no one was really paying attention to. Box lots can be killer. We have done so well buying box lots from auction houses. Especially, we can tell what the best time is to go buy these and etc. But one thing I have to say is if you start overly digging through a box, now everyone else at the preview becomes interested in that box. So you do have to have some stealth about you. An auction is almost like a contest. I hate to say it. I want to say it's a little bit like a gamble, but it's more like a contest. And it's not like a gamble because you don't have to bid on anything. And if you do bid on something and you win, you literally leave with something, unlike gambling where you literally are leaving with nothing, like you left your money behind. So, but it's a gamble whether other people notice the same items that you notice. And that's why it's important that you not bring extra attention to those items. So if you have a box lot of items and you're like, this is great, I can't wait to get into this, I can see right on top that there's, you know, this particular item. Or I remember I remember the auctioneer was like, wow, you're really bidding on that? And I was like, hell to the yes, we're bidding on that, because in that lot, there were a bunch of lucite boxes, which I don't know if I have one handy here right now. I don't, but we use them right now for like storage, so because they're clear, so we could see through them and throw a bunch of rings in them or marbles or whatever, and you know exactly what's in there. And so it was a huge box of lucite boxes. And I mean huge, like, you could fit a dishwasher in the box. That's how big the box was. And so we bid on it. The box was pushed under a table. No one could tell what was in it. I just happened, thankfully, to get to this, and this auction house wasn't far from where one of our shops was located. So I pulled out the box, and yes, we also owned a thrift shop. So we had two of those. So we pulled out the box, and I could see that all the lucite boxes and the lids to those boxes were in there. But then I could see there was like this white cardboard that went across, and like you couldn't see anything down below it. And so I just kind of moved a few boxes out of the way. There were literally like so many of these boxes. I'm saying a few, but I probably had to move like 15, 20. and I just lifted up the edge, and underneath I could see that there were a bunch of boxes of something. I really wasn't sure what was in them, but I knew it had to be good because this box was very, very heavy, and I was like, there's something else down there. You know, there's like a million silver coins. I don't know what was down there. So we ended up winning in the auction, and I'll tell you about when to bid, and that'll be in my next video. When the best time is to bid, and that is super key to getting a great deal. So we did our timing thing that we normally do, and at that point I was like, it's down to me and a few people, and I hope I get this. And the guy started the bidding. I think he started at like $25. When he did that, I knew he did not know, or he wasn't like organized enough to figure out that there had to be more in that box than some clear lucite boxes. So I, did my bidding. He ended, and I just waited. He went down, and that's the other thing is whenever the bidding starts, don't bid, because the auctioneer will go down at least 2 or 3 times before the bidding becomes, people start jumping on the bandwagon and bidding. So if he starts a bidding at $20, which he did, there was no noise. No one raised their card. And then when he went down to, I think he went to 15, then he went to 10. And I was afraid that he would not go down to 5. So I put up my card and bid at 10. I was the only bidder. I won that gigantic box. And when I say lucite boxes, I'm actually going to show you what one looks like. So this is what one of the boxes, and look, it actually has a bidding number on it because we used these later on for when we had our